Hello students and welcome to Crop Science 6049. In today's lesson, we are going to look at responses of plants to environmental factors. By the end of this lesson, you must be able to describe responses of plants to environmental factors, outline physiological responses of plants to adverse environmental factors, and also explain the effects of environmental factors on crop productivity. Now let's take a look at responses of plants to environmental factors. First of all, we would like to define what plant response is. A response is any change a plant makes as a result of change in the environment. All plants sense and interact with their environment. Let's take a look at how plants respond to air circulation. Long exposure to strong winds causes morphological changes. When trees bend in the wind, growth is usually stunted and the trunk thickens. Strengthening tissue, especially xylem, is produced and added for stiffness to resist the wind's force. Mechanical strain induces growth and differentiation to strengthen the tissues. Air circulation also increases transpiration by removing that thin, moist layer of air called the boundary layer, which lies next to the surface of a leaf. This moist air causes lesser water potential gradient from the leaf, resulting in a reduced rate of transpiration. This layer also reduces light penetration into the leaf. But with air movement, this boundary layer is replaced with drier air, thus increasing water potential gradient and increasing transpiration. However, strong winds may cause excessive loss of water from leaves, and plants may respond by stomatal closure. So what are the effects of air circulation on crop productivity? Exposure of growing plants to hot winds result in dwarfing due to desiccation of plant tissue and reduced growth. Wind increases crop water requirements by increasing evapotranspiration due to the removal of accumulated humid air near the leaves. This will result in wilting or even drying of crops if the water is not replaced. Crop production will be negatively affected since plant processes such as photosynthesis require water for them to take place. Moderate wind results in pollination in crops. Heavy winds during flowering reduces pollination, causes flower shed, increases sterility, and reduces fruit set in all crops, and all these reduce crop productivity. Strong winds lead to the lodging of crops, breaking of branches, dropping of flowers and fruits, leading to heavy losses. Soil and sand particles blown by the wind strike the leaves and other plant parts, making punctures, abrasions, lesions, and tear the leaves into pieces and strips. This is well marked in maize, sugarcane, and bananas during summertime. Now let's take a look at how plants respond to soil drainage. If a soil is poorly drained, there is rapid depletion of soil oxygen and alteration of plant metabolism, thereby inhibiting growth. Reduced growth is preceded by stomatal closure, reduced photosynthesis, carbohydrate translocation, and mineral absorption, as well as altered hormonal balance. All this will result in low plant productivity. Tolerance of poor soil drainage varies widely among plant species and cultivars, and is associated with both morphological and physiological adaptations. If a soil is well drained, plant productivity will be very high. This is due to well-balanced supply of soil oxygen and water, promoting photosynthesis, translocation, mineral absorption, and unaltered hormonal balance. So what are the effects of soil drainage on crop productivity? Poor soil drainage causes lack of oxygen in the root zone of plants, which causes their root tissues to decompose. Usually this occurs from the tips of the roots, and this causes the roots to appear as if they have been pruned. The consequence is that the plant's growth and development is stalled. If the anaerobic circumstances continue for a considerable time, the plant eventually dies. Many farmers do not realize that a land is poorly drained until water appears on the soil surface. However, by this stage, plant roots may already be damaged and yield potential severely affected. Nitrogen is also lost from poorly drained soils by denitrification. This loss, together with the lowered ability of plant roots to absorb nutrients from the soil, cause the older leaves to turn yellow. Poor soil drainage also directly reduces nitrogen fixation by the nodules of legume crops and pastures. If a soil is well drained, it means that it will be well aerated, and that promotes good root growth, hence crop productivity will be promoted. Now let's take a look at how plants respond to soil moisture. The source of water for transpiration out of the plant comes from the soil. Plants with adequate soil moisture will normally transpire at high rates because the soil provides the water to move through the plant. Plants cannot continue to transpire without wilting if the soil is very dry, because the water in the xylem that moves out through the leaves is not being replaced by soil water. This condition causes the leaf to lose texture or firmness and the stomata close. If this loss of texture continues throughout the plant will wilt. Plant roots also respond to soil moisture through hydrotropism. Hydrotropism is a directional growth in response to water concentrations. This tropism is important in plants for the plant roots to search for water in the soil through positive hydrotropism and against water oversaturation through negative hydrotropism. It is especially important for plants in arid areas to be able to respond to water concentrations. Moisture gradients are sensed in the roots. The cells on the side of the root closest to the water source experience slower growth than those on the opposite side. The hormone abscisic acid plays an important role in inducing differential growth in the root elongation zone. This differential growth causes roots to grow towards the direction of the water. The effects of soil moisture on crop productivity are the same as the effects of soil drainage on crop productivity. Now let's take a look at light intensity and how plants respond to light intensity. Light intensity refers to the amount of light energy made available to a plant. Subject to physiological limits, an increase in the intensity of light will result to an increase in the rate of photosynthesis and will likewise reduce the number of hours that the plant must receive every day. Stomata are triggered to open in high light intensity so that carbon dioxide is available for the light-dependent process of photosynthesis. Stomata are closed in the absence of light in most plants. Very low levels of light at dawn can cause stomata to open so they can access carbon dioxide for photosynthesis as soon as the sun hits their leaves. Stomata are most sensitive to blue light predominating at sunrise. Low light intensities tend to reduce plant growth, development, and yield. This is because low amount of solar energy restricts the rate of photosynthesis. Below a minimum intensity, the plant falls below the compensation point. Photosynthesis significantly slows down or ceases while respiration continues. Compensation point is the metabolic point at which the rates of photosynthesis and respiration are equal, so that the leaves do not gain or lose dry matter. Inadequate light results in etoylation, a morphological manifestation of the adverse effects of inadequate light, which causes plants to develop white, spindly, elongated internodes, leaves that are not fully expanded, and stunted root system. Excessive light intensity can scorch the leaves and reduce chlorophyll content. This reduces the rate of light absorption and the rate of photosynthesis. Excess light intensity is associated with increase in the temperature of leaves, which in turn induces rapid transpiration and water loss. The guard cells lose turgor, the stomata partially or completely close, and the rate of diffusion of carbon dioxide into the leaves slows down. The rate of photosynthesis decreases while respiration continues, resulting in reduced availability of carbohydrates for growth and development. High leaf temperature inactivates the enzyme systems that changes sugars to starch. Sugars accumulate and the rate of photosynthesis slows down. Phototropism is another response of plants to light. It is the directional growth of a plant in response to light. Growth towards light, or positive tropism, is demonstrated in many vascular plants such as angiosperms, gymnosperms, and ferns. Stems in these plants exhibit positive phototropism and grow in the direction of a light source. Photoreceptors in plant cells detect light, and plant hormones such as auxins are directed to the side of the stem that is furthest from the light. The accumulation of auxins on the shaded side of the stem causes the cells to elongate at a greater rate than those on the opposite side of the stem. As a result, the stem curves in the direction away from the side of the accumulated auxins and towards the direction of the light. Plant stems and leaves demonstrate positive phototropism, while roots tend to demonstrate negative phototropism. Since photosynthesis conducting organelles, known as chloroplasts, are most concentrated in leaves, it is important that these structures have access to sunlight. Now let's take a look at the effects of light intensity on crop productivity. Plants use light as a source of energy for photosynthesis. Light intensity levels can have a significant effect on photosynthetic rates, which are directly related to a plant's ability to grow. Rate of photosynthesis is higher as light intensity increases until light saturation is reached. Beyond this point, further increase in light intensity have no effect on the rate of photosynthesis. So an increase in light intensity increases crop productivity. Response to light intensity varies with crop species. Some plants can tolerate higher light intensities than others. As mentioned earlier, inadequate light causes plants to develop white, spindly stems, elongated internodes, leaves that are not fully expanded, and a stunted root system. Excessive light intensity can scorch the leaves and reduce chlorophyll content. This reduces the rate of light absorption and rate of photosynthesis. Excess light intensity is associated with increase in the temperature of the leaves, which in turn induces rapid transpiration and water loss. All these reduce crop productivity. Now let's take a look at how plants respond to temperature. Temperature is important to plant functioning and survival. Temperature affects most plants' physiological processes, including photosynthesis and transpiration. Plants respond differently to different temperatures. At relatively low temperatures, the enzymes that carry out photosynthesis do not work efficiently, and this decreases the photosynthetic rate. This leads to a decrease in glucose production and will result in stunted growth and yield. At optimum temperatures, the photosynthetic enzymes work at their optimum levels, so photosynthetic rates are high and crop productivity is high. At high temperatures, the rate of photosynthesis decreases because the enzymes do not work efficiently at this temperature. This is despite the increase of carbon dioxide diffusion into the leaves. At high temperatures, the enzymes that carry out photosynthesis are denatured and lose functionality, and the photosynthetic rate declines rapidly, resulting in reduced yield. Plants also respond to high temperatures by curling their leaves in order to minimize the surface area of the leaf directly exposed to sunlight and wind, thus minimizing evaporation and water loss. So what are the effects of temperature on crop productivity? Plants grow only within certain limits of temperature. For each species and variety, there are not only optimal temperature limits, but also optimal temperatures for different growth stages and functions, as well as lower and upper lethal limits. Temperature greatly influences germination of seeds. The imbibition phase of germination is primarily physical and shows low sensitivity to temperature. The subsequent phases of germination, that is hydration, enzyme activation, enzymatic degradation of storage material, synthesis and growth of the embryo, are temperature dependent due to biochemical processes involved. If temperature is optimal, rate of germination is high. However, if temperature is operating in its extremes, germination will be negatively affected. For most crops, low temperatures reduce germination percentage. Very high and very low temperatures affect the photosynthetic rate adversely. Photosynthesis increases with the rise in temperature up to a certain temperature, beyond which there is a rapid fall. The rate of respiration increases with the rise of temperature up to a certain level, but beyond the optimum limit, the respiration rate shows marked decrease. Increase in photosynthesis and respiration results in high plant productivity and vice versa. Temperature extremes can cause injuries to plants. Warmth-loving plants of the tropical and subtropical regions of the earth, for example tomatoes and maize, if exposed to low temperatures above freezing point for some time, they experience tissue necrosis, which is the dying of plant tissue. Apart from causing tissue necrosis, very low temperatures may result in sterility in some plants. For example, low temperatures during reproductive stage of spring wheat causes sterility of pollen grains and reduced yield, and also due to loss of stickiness of stigma resulting in failure of fertilization. Now let's take a look at how plants respond to humidity. Plants are always adjusting their leaf stomata opening basing on the humidity in the air. When humidity is high, plants absorb less water even though the stomata are constantly open. Likewise, if humidity is very low, the rate of transpiration will be high, and the plant responds by closing its stomata openings to minimize water loss and wilting. Unfortunately, this also means photosynthesis is slowed and subsequently so is plant growth. Let's take a look at the effects of humidity on crop productivity. As alluded above, the two major functions of the plant that tie in closely with the humidity in the air and affect crop performance are transpiration and photosynthesis. The drier or hotter the air temperature, the faster the transpiration rate from the plant. In a very dry air, the increased rate of transpiration can only go so high in the plant, and then the plant begins to wilt. Even if the soil has enough water, the plant may still wilt, and unless the humidity increases, the plant could die since stomata pores eventually close, resulting in the cessation of respiration and photosynthesis, which are life-sustaining processes in a plant. On the other hand, if the air is very humid, the plant does not take up much water from the soil, which also means there is little uptake of soil nutrients. This inadequate uptake can lead to nutrients deficiencies, reducing crop productivity. When it comes to photosynthesis, if humidity is normal, more stomata will open, letting in carbon dioxide for active photosynthesis. If the humidity is low, the plant wilts, the stomatal openings close, thereby reducing photosynthetic activity and ultimately plant productivity. The productivity of the crop is dependent on the conditions that promote optimal photosynthesis, and humidity plays a role in this process, as seen in the above discussion. Now let's see how plants respond to soil fertility. Soil fertility is one of the most important factors that have a direct impact on crop yield and quality. When a soil is infertile, it means that the soil lacks the ability to sustain agricultural plant growth through the supply of essential plant nutrients in adequate amounts or proportions. Plants respond in different ways to an infertile soil. The main ways in which plants respond is by showing deficiency symptoms. Symptoms caused by the nutrients deficiencies are stunted growth, chlorosis, interveinal chlorosis, purplish red coloring, and necrosis. Stunting is a common response for many deficient nutrients due to their varied roles in the plant, such as stem elongation, photosynthesis, and protein production are deficient. Plant growth is typically slow and plants are small in stature. Chlorosis and interveinal chlorosis are found in plants deficient of nutrients necessary for photosynthesis and or chlorophyll production. Chlorosis can result in either the entire plant or leaf turning light green to yellow or appear more localized as white or yellow spotting. Interveinal chlorosis occurs when certain nutrients such as boron, iron, magnesium, manganese, nickel, and zinc are deficient. Purplish red discolorations in plant stems and leaves are due to above normal levels of a purple-colored pigment that can accumulate when plant functions are disrupted or stressed. This symptom can be particularly difficult to diagnose because cool temperatures, diseases, drought, and even maturation of some plants can cause a purple-colored pigment to accumulate. Necrosis generally happens in the later stages of deficiency and causes the parts of the plant first affected by the deficiency to brown and die. When nutrients are found in excess in the soil, plants may respond by producing excess growth, as in the case of nitrogen. Excessive amounts of certain nutrients cause some nutrients to be unavailable in the soil. For example, excess phosphorus causes micronutrients deficiency of zinc, iron, or cobalt. The deficiency of the nutrients will be indicated by deficiency symptoms in the plant. Now let's take a look at the effects of soil fertility on crop production. A fertile soil favors plant growth due to adequate supply of nutrients, and this increases crop productivity. If plant nutrients are in excess supply in the soil, it may result in toxicity and or the unavailability of other nutrients as mentioned above. When a soil lacks the ability to sustain agricultural plant growth through the supply of essential plant nutrients in adequate amounts and proportions, plant growth is disturbed, resulting in reduced crop productivity. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, additions and subtractions, please write them in the comment section. If you have benefited from this lesson, please click the like button.